Am I the asshole for being homophobic? Story time. So a fair few years ago now, I worked in this fairly corporate environment. So within our office, there was this couple. We'll call them Amy and Stacey. Amy would work there full time. She was doing really large hours like me. And Stacey joined a year or so afterwards and she wouldn't work as often. So eventually me and Amy got on really, really well. Now when Stacey joined, she was quite shy. There was already a real strong bond between the group within the office already. And we tried to include her as much as possible, but she just didn't really gel with us the same way other people did. I don't know why, but we did quite often make the effort. Now I was working with my best mate at the time. I'm just going to call her my friend throughout all this because I don't want to be throwing too many names in there. So one morning before like our shift starts, we're all just chatting, getting our coffees, and this guy goes, "Oh, have you heard that Amy is going to propose to Stacey?" And I was like, well, that's not possible because they're already engaged. I'm actually going to have to bring out the big guns for this because talking about it makes me so angry. And they were like, yeah, I swear I've seen something, but they don't talk about it very often or they're not very public with it. So Amy and Stacey are stood behind me and I turn and look and she has an engagement ring on her left hand. So I turn to the group that I'm in and I go, no guys, look, she's got an engagement ring. So all at once we turn around and look at her. So it's quite obvious that we have been talking about her, but not like bitching. As we all turn to look, she turns to look at us. So she sees that we're looking at her, and then they're like, oh, okay, maybe, but is she not just wearing a ring on that finger anyway? And I was like, let's go to Facebook, let's have a look. Got her Facebook open, looked, and it says engaged to Amy. Anyway, this was at 9 AM. So as soon as our morning brief was done, I was required to work on a different floor that day. And I was originally supposed to be on the same floor as my friend, but I got moved. So I headed off for the rest of the day. The day goes by and my supervisor comes up to me and is like, the managers want to talk to you in the office. You automatically just start shitting yourself, don't you? So I come in and all 3 managers are sat there. I was fucking terrified. And they're like, now we've had allegations of you being homophobic towards Amy and Stacey. As soon as they said that, I knew exactly what they were referencing because obviously that thing that morning had happened when we all turned around and looked at her. And they were like, so we'd like to know what happened. So I told them exactly what I've just told you. And I'm sat there in this meeting and they're like, how can you prove to us that you aren't homophobic? Now listen, I am actually bisexual. At the time, I really wasn't open to talk about it with anyone. And I didn't want the first time for me to tell people to be in this scenario. I just wasn't ready yet. So I'm here like trying to clutch at straws to find reasons why I'm not homophobic. But yeah, they'd been saying that like I hate lesbians, I hate bisexual people. Anyway, these allegations, they didn't go any further. But safe to say, it was exceptionally awkward in the office for a few weeks after that. So yeah, let me know what you think. Am I the asshole here?
Am I wrong for throwing my husband out after finding nudes from the nanny?
Why would you even ask? I think she just needs validation.
I'm new to Reddit, but my little sister suggested I ask here. I'm 28 female, my daughter is Cassie, 11 months, and my husband is Alex, 35. So basically, it's just what the title said. I had Cassie and then returned to work, psychologist, and I could never be a stay-at-home mom. I'm actually French, but live in the US, so when I returned at the 4-month mark, as I had a difficult birth, we looked around to find a nanny to look after Cassie while myself and Alex were at work. We saw a few girls, but then one of Alex's colleagues suggested his daughter, who had dropped out of college. Let's call her Liv, 20 female. Everything went well. Admittedly, I did notice her being quite attached to Cassie, but I brushed it off as a good friendship between the two. She also liked Alex. It was obvious she had a crush on him, always batting her lashes and giggling. I actually found it amusing as I'm confident in myself. He always laughed it off with me too. But then on Thursday night, he asked me to do something on his phone while he bathed Cassie, and I saw some pictures flash up from Liv. When I looked at them, they were obviously sexy nudes. She was wearing skimpy lingerie and in a provocative pose. I looked back at the history and she had been sending these for a while. As far as I can see, Alex never responded, but obviously text can be deleted. When I asked him, he got defensive and told me to stop using my psychiatrist tricks on him. I was not happy with his non-answers and it ended up in a shouting match waking Cassie. So I got him a bag and threw him out. Told him he's not welcome back until I have answers. I'm considering taking Cassie back home to see my family in France for a little bit. His mom and friends have been blowing up my phone saying I'm being too harsh and they were harmless texts. Nevertheless, I feel disrespected and that doesn't fly with me. Was I too harsh? Should I expect his claims that he never responded?
Her psychiatrist tricks on him, literally just asking him, are you cheating on me?
That's the quickest gas.
Stop using your tricks on me! I asked you if you're cheating on me.
There are pictures, sir.
Yo.
What are these? Like, what?
That's crazy. I hate when people bandwagon on the one who's like doing the bad thing. I hate that. I hate when people feel enabled and encouraged to continue their bad behaviors. Because you always look at the reaction and never what's causing it. And then you're like, oh, she's crazy. Well, why is she crazy? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do think that's a red flag. If you are talking to someone new and they're like, all my exes are crazy.
Definitely. Definitely.
Who's the common denominator? You.
Exactly. Like, you have to be able to take accountability to some extent.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to blame yourself for, like, everything. But also, you're like, there's certain actions that I could have done differently. You know, it's all about self-reflection and self-awareness.
Well, and I feel like for this one, she does say he never responded. But if you were innocent in this, you could have like approached your wife after the first pictures came through and been like, hey, the nanny, I did nothing to initiate this, but we have a problem on our hands.
And why would she feel so comfortable as to continue to send them if he wasn't responding?
Exactly. Like, I know there are some women out there, and there's some guys too that probably get off on it. I think maybe she's 20, she's just very confident and just kind of like naive, and maybe just going in hard and just being like, I'm gonna keep sending until I get asked not to.
But I feel like news though is such a vulnerable thing that like when you don't get a response, you're like, you kind of just like, what the fuck? Like
the rejection of it.
Like, something that you're expecting someone to be like, oh my God, you look so good.
Yeah.
I'm not going to continue to send that if I'm not getting the validation. Yeah, I feel like he's definitely...
You don't think he's telling the truth that like...
Hell no, there's no way he could be telling the truth.
Am I the asshole for still going to my daughter's wedding, even though my other daughter isn't invited due to her panic attacks? I have two daughters, they're 27 and 24. The issue is my youngest daughter got into a bad situation when she was in high school. She now has panic attacks and is on meds for almost 8 years now. My oldest is not close to her younger sibling. It boils down to celebrations usually getting interrupted by a panic attack. I know my youngest isn't doing it on purpose, but it really sucks when you're at a graduation and a panic attack happens. Sometimes she can get away and calm down, but sometimes she pushes herself too hard and it results in an attack. Now to the issue. My oldest is getting married. Everyone was invited to her engagement party, and during the event, the youngest had an attack. The event ended soon after since the whole incident ruined the vibe. My oldest was really upset and kept going on about how she shouldn't have invited her. Invitations were sent out, and my oldest didn't invite her younger sibling. I asked her about it, and she informed me she wants her wedding to go smoothly, and unlike all the other events, not get interrupted by a panic attack. I asked her to reconsider, and she said no. She wants one day where it's all about her. I completely get that. Like, we understand that she's not, your youngest child is not doing this on purpose, but as the oldest child, to never have an event, to not have an event simply that was about them, for them, not be interrupted, I completely understand your oldest going the route that she's going because she wants her wedding to be about her. Her engagement party was about her up until the point her sister had a panic attack, and then the event was over. It was over because people were no longer vibing the way that they were. I completely understand why she chose not to invite her. My youngest is really upset and asked me to skip the wedding. That's a little selfish, no? I informed her that I will not. I don't want to miss her sister getting married. This resulted in an argument, and she called me a jerk. I'm looking for opinions. My daughter gets attacks at all types of events, not just her sister's. So this isn't a I'm trying to ruin my sister event situation. She has been seeing a therapist. I'm glad you threw that in there near the end because I was strongly going to advise that you put your daughter in therapy. Put your daughter in therapy because she has to understand that until we get this under control, there are going to be certain situations and events and parties and things that you're not going to be invited to. Because as the person getting married and as the person hosting this event, I have every right to want it to go down the way I want it to go down without you having a panic attack in the middle of it sometime during it. Like I am fucking entitled to that. So your daughter has to understand there's things she's not going to be invited to. The main issues with the panic attacks is that they come on suddenly. She could be doing fine all night and something will push her over the edge. She's a million times better than she was when she was a teenager, having panic attacks twice a day. So I came to the comment section because I really wanted more information, because truly from the bottom of my asshole, I feel like little sister is doing this to steal the spotlight. But OP is adamant that this is not that type of situation. Okay, my next question is, when your daughter feels like she's being triggered, her panic attacks are being triggered, like, because OP said in the comments that, you know, she'll be okay and then something eventually will trigger her at the event. So my question is, when she knows that she's being triggered, is she not capable of excusing herself from the situation? Or is this a situation where her whole body is frozen and she has to sit in the middle of a room and have a panic attack? Because the story said that her sister's engagement party ended after she had a panic attack. So I feel like she wasn't off to the corner somewhere. She didn't go sit in the bathroom. Like, this happened in the middle of the dance floor or like at the dinner table. You know, like, I feel like it's happening right in the middle of everything. Is it not possible for her to move, like, excuse herself to a quiet area, a different place? Or does it just happen and she's in full panic mode right here, right now at events? And also, if there's something at the events that trigger her, maybe, hear me out, maybe her going to these events is not what she needs to be doing right now until she's able to get this under control.
Am I wrong for kicking my mom out of my dad's old house after finding out what she's been telling my wife? I, 33 male, am beyond angry about this. Some of my siblings are telling me it was an overreaction while also mad at what she did. I'd really like some thoughts about this because the house seems divided. My wife Kara and I were friends for 3 years. She was in a very toxic and abusive relationship for 3 years until she had begged us, me and our closest friends, to help her get out. It was difficult, but we made it possible. We all pitched in for her to stay as far as possible while she got a restraining order and all of that jazz. We each took turns going to visit, and then she found out she was pregnant, so I helped out more. Her ex passed from an overdose when my stepson, 7 male, was 4 months old. So since then, we all became sort of like uncles and aunts to him. Around that time, I knew I developed feelings for her, but we never ever did anything because she had her son and personal issues to process. It didn't feel right at the time. But yes, we did start a relationship 3 years later. She's the one who first admitted she's in love with me, so things went from there. We just got married. She's 5 months pregnant with our second child. I will say that yeah, my mom had issues at the start of our relationship because she believed Kara was faking what happened to her just to make me feel sorry for her and take care of them. We went through a period of not talking until she apologized, so we mended things somewhat. My mom came to stay at our house, which was my dad's house, until he decided to give ownership to me when they moved. He passed away 10 months ago, and with the economy, my mom couldn't stay where they were living before. We are still trying to work out where she can live long term. I heard my mom get into an argument with my wife because she was trying to redecorate the nursery against Kara's wishes. All I heard was my mom telling her that she's not the lady of the house just because her fake victim sob story worked on me. She looked flustered when I demanded her to tell me what that meant. And basically, she held on to the same belief, but she was willing to put up with my choices on who I marry so she doesn't lose me. Everything she had to say infuriated me. And then seeing how upset Kara was by everything, I called my brother to come pick my mom up because she can't stay here right now. My mom wouldn't stop trying not to do this to her just for being honest. She's still at my brother's, but they keep trying to talk to me to let her come back because this was my dad's house and of course she wants to feel closer to him. But after asking Kara if this is the first time she said anything, she revealed my mom had told her numerous times what she thinks of her and kept it from me because she knew it would hurt our relationship. For that reason, I haven't let my mom come back. It's hard because I know what this house means to her and that she's still sad about my dad, but also can't forgive her for upsetting my wife. So, am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for canceling our anniversary trip because my husband drowned my terrarium? I, 29 female, traveled across the country to visit a company regarding an incredible job offer. I spent 2 days touring the company to decide if it would be the right fit for me after years of self-employment. After meeting with the company, I visited my sister, 32 female, and her family a few towns over. We barely get to see each other because of work and distance, so it was wonderful to spend a few days with her, the family, and her new baby. I was gone for a total of 8 days. When I returned home, I was excited to spend time with my husband, 33 male, and tell him about the trip, my visit with my sister, my impression of the city, etc. We were meant to be celebrating our anniversary and decided to put off the discussion about whether or not I should accept the job offer until after our anniversary getaway. I'd arranged for us to go on a luxury train ride because he's a big train enthusiast, and we were meant to leave for the trip 3 days after I got home. This is when the problem started. I have a very large closed bioactive terrarium, which I made with my mother 15 years ago. It's one of my favorite things I have of her from before she passed. This terrarium is my pride and joy and has come with me everywhere since we planted it. It was always super healthy and beautiful, and I've only ever had to open it 4 times to do little maintenance and watering. My husband knows all of this, which is why I don't understand why he decided to tamper with it in my absence. I didn't notice the night I got home because I was exhausted, but the next morning I went to check on the terrarium to find it in a terrible state. The roots were rotting, the plants were drying and molding. He told me that the day I left, he poured a few cups of water into the vessel and sealed it again. I was so mad I cried, and it turned into a huge argument because, quote, it's just a plant, and, quote, all you do is look at it anyways. He called me ungrateful and overdramatic, and that I should appreciate that his intention was to help me, and that he didn't ask because he didn't want to bother me on my trip. I ended up canceling our anniversary plans, partly because I was so upset that I didn't want to go, and partly because I wanted to try and salvage the plants, and that would require time. He hit the roof when I told him, and is now sleeping in a separate room and refusing to speak to me because, according to him, I'm being petty and trying to destroy our marriage. Am I being oversensitive about my plants? My friends are pretty evenly split and have pointed out that he was just trying to be thoughtful, however misguided it was.
No chance.
For those that don't know, a terrarium...
They're so cool.
They are.
It's essentially like a dome. Like, I've seen them mostly be domes. But once you set up the plants and the environment and you add water, essentially you create this atmosphere where it's self-sustaining.
It's an ecosystem.
It's an ecosystem.
So cool.
You don't add water. The condensation, evaporation, water cycle system happens within this dome. And so the fact that, like, she made this with her mom, it's 15 years old.
Yeah.
It's survived.
Oh, I'd be pissed.
And then he pours multiple cups of water.
And I didn't want to disturb you while you're on.
Yeah, come on.
What kind of relationship is that? I'm sorry. Like, to not be able to just send a quick text.
No, he could have.
That's what I'm saying.
It's him trying to do all these dumb things to, like,
feels like he did on
make
purpose.
him right.
This has to be cruel intentions, right?
It doesn't.
How could it not be?
I'm like,
I don't know.
And if he was actually just that, like, unaware.
Dumb.
He just didn't realize, like, he actually thought that he was doing something nice, then he's still in the wrong, because he should have turned around and been like, I am so sorry, and not gotten defensive and say, you're trying to destroy our marriage.
That's where it went really wrong.
Yeah.
You just look at it anyways.
That's so
rude.
You can apply that to so many things.
Why do we keep any shit in our houses?
It's that classic thing that people do when they're backed into a corner, they know they're wrong, and then they try to fight fire with fire. We're going to blow this up into something so much more when we're not even focused on the terrarium anymore. We're focused on, okay, now I'm considering you as my partner, not because you wrecked this, but now also because how you're responding to it.
My best friend's dad is the father of my child, and I have to go to her wedding next week. Story time. So when I was 19, I met a guy in his 40s who we'll call Steve. I was at uni at the time. He told me he was married and had 3 kids. He told me that his wife had passed away. So he wanted to keep our relationship away from his children until they were ready to hear it. So when we'd been together for about 18 months, I found out that I was pregnant. He freaked the fuck out and admitted that his wife actually wasn't dead, was still very much alive. So needless to say, I broke up with him, and that's when the custody battle began. And when I say battle, I mean like battle. His wife said that he could only keep the kid if they got full custody. I would have nothing because she didn't want to deal with me for the next 18 years. So after a load of crap from his wife, they only got visitation every 2 weeks. So when they found out that they would be getting that, they decided that they didn't want anything to do with the child, or nothing. And throughout all of the custody battle, I ended up meeting his children. 2 eldest boys hated my guts, fair enough. But the youngest, Amy, was 6 months older than me, and she thought the only one that should get in any trouble here was her dad. She wanted to have a relationship with her brother, so I agreed to let her see him, and we actually became really, really good friends. We were similar age, similar interests. Being friends with Amy, she then entered my friendship group and she met a guy there, and they're now getting married. My son and I are still a bit of a touchy subject with Amy's parents, and Amy says that her mum regularly complains about the child support. However, Amy really, really wants her little brother at her wedding. So they aren't getting married till next year, but she's already done the guest list and me and my son are on it. But when Amy's parents found out, her mum texted me and asked me not to attend. Went straight in with it. I was like, no, I will be going to my best friend's wedding. And she went on to tell me that I'd actually fucked up her family 7 years ago. She said, don't continue to. And my son still doesn't know that he is the father, and she doesn't want him to realise this at the wedding. He's seen pictures of the person who his father is, and he also knows that Amy is his sister, and they don't want any of the wider family to know about our affair. Realistically, what does she think I'm going to do? Take the microphone? My child is the bastard child of the father of the bride. Cheers, everybody. Cheers to the bride and groom. I spoke to my roommate about it, and my roommate said, we did kind of shag her husband. The love child of her affair would be at her daughter's wedding, so you can see why she's angry. So what do you think? Am I wrong for going?
Am I the asshole for refusing to pick up a kid from elementary school? I'm a mom to 2 sons, one age 6 and the other age 8. They both attend the same elementary school, so pick up and drop off is easy for me. I'm married, so I'm mostly a stay-at-home mom, aside from the part-time job that I have teaching kids piano. Recently, my older son has become quite good friends with another kid in his class. He wanted to have a play date with him, so I got in touch with the mom to organize it. I managed to meet the kid's mom, and she seems pretty responsible from my impression. The week after the playdate, I was picking up my 2 sons from school, and my eldest had brought his friend with him. I asked him where his mom was. He told me that she told him to just go with Daniel, my son's name. Obviously, this was wildly irresponsible from her part, so I called her, but it went straight to voicemail. No, you're not the asshole. You're not the asshole, because what the fuck do you think, who the fuck do you think you are? You're not just going to tell your son to go home with my son without calling me and asking me, because, people do things with their kids after school. They plan all types of things with their kids. And what's not considered in the plan is a random child that I didn't know was coming along. And then, bitch, to turn your fucking phone off and it goes straight to voicemail? Yeah, bitch, you'll never, ever, ever see me and my kids again because I can't trust to be around you. I'm so sorry, but that's not going to keep happening. Obviously, I wasn't going to leave this kid alone at the end of school. So after repeated attempts to contact her, I just took him home with me. That's where you fucked up. What you do is you take his little ass to the goddamn office and you tell them that his mother is not here to pick him up and she's not answering the phone. A lot of you guys walk yourselves into these situations and then you want to get on the internet asking everybody if you're the asshole when you should have just taken him the fuck in the office from the very beginning. You express how you thought this was wildly inappropriate and is very irresponsible, but then you're bleeding heart. Well, I can't just leave him. I can. I will take him to the fucking office. That's exactly what they're there for. They are there for that. I can do it. I guess my heart just don't bleed like y'all's, but I 100% would have walked baby to the office and let them know what the fuck was going on. Obviously, I wasn't going to leave this kid alone at the end of school. So after repeated attempts to contact her, I just took him home with me. She later contacted me around 2 hours after school finished. She asked me where her kid was and then came to collect him from my house. I asked her why the hell she had done that. She said she was a single mom who couldn't pick him up in time because of her Pilates class. I wish the fuck I would. She would have got beat the fuck up right there because, bitch, a Pilates class was more important than picking up your son from school. No. I was pissed that she had just used me for free childcare and assumed that I had no responsibilities of my own. I told her not to do this again or I would report it. A few days later, and guess what? My oldest comes to the car with his friend. I asked him again, where was his mom? Again, he said she told him to go with my son. At this point, I got out of the car with all of the kids and went to the reception to tell them about this incident and left him there, which is what the fuck you should have done the first time. Which is what the fuck you should have done the first fucking time. I got a call after school from his mom with her swearing and berating me, calling me every name in the book, saying that I got her in trouble with the school. We got into an argument and I hung up. After this, she made a Facebook post about me, calling me out and calling me a selfish asshole. Says the person that doesn't even bother to contact the person who you want to watch your child. They're the selfish asshole for not wanting to watch your kid, but you're not selfish, nor are you an asshole for just dropping him off and expecting me to take him home. That's fucking crazy. I really don't know what to do, and I really want to know if I was the asshole. I truly don't see what it is that you're stressed about. I really don't know what to do. What the fuck are you supposed to do? She's mad. Let her be fucking mad. Let her be fucking mad. You've got 2 children, not 3. So when another motherfucker wants to add a 3rd and be upset that you don't want to take care of the 3rd, let them be fucking angry. Let them be fucking angry. If her post on Facebook is what is stressing you out the most, make your own and tag her in them. Make sure to let people know that she felt like it was okay to leave her son at school for a Pilates class. She felt like Pilates was more important. Make sure to let people know that she thinks that simply because your two kids are friends, childcare should be free because she's a single mother. Make sure you let fucking people know that she's berating you and being disrespectful to you for doing the fucking best thing for her son. Let people know that she's continuously abandoning her kid, expecting other people to take care of them. Let people fucking know. Tag her in it and be done. Stop stressing about it.
Am I in the wrong for telling a doctor to shut up on a turbulent flight? I-30 male was on a flight from Atlanta to LAX last night. Packed flight, everyone was just trying to get some sleep. About 2 hours in, the lights come on and an announcement crackles through the intercom. Turbulence ahead, fasten seatbelts. Pretty standard stuff. Then, all hell breaks loose. This woman, maybe late 40s, impeccably dressed, starts freaking out, screaming about air pockets, demanding to speak to the pilot, the whole 9 yards. Flight attendant, super patient lady, bless her, tries to calm her down. Explains it's standard procedure, turbulence is normal. Nope, not having it. This lady, who we'll name Jane, throws a fit. Not the screeching, nails on a chalkboard kind, but a cold steel fury. She accuses the flight attendant of lying, of putting everyone in danger, and demands to be deplaned immediately. Flight attendant says that that's not possible mid-flight, and Jane launches into this whole spiel about how she's a doctor. Pulls out an ID to prove it, and if something happens, it's on the airline. Now the rest of the plane is awake. People are grumbling, some looking scared, a baby starts crying. Flight attendant is trying to reason with Jane, but it's like talking to a brick wall. Finally, I just lose it. I yell out, probably a little too loudly, "Look lady, we all get turbulence. It's not a 5-star resort, but it's safe. Sit down and shut up before you get yourself arrested." Everyone stares at me. Jane spins around, eyes blazing, and starts in on me about disrespecting a medical professional. I fire back that a real doctor wouldn't be causing a scene and freaking everyone out. The flight attendant dives in, trying to mediate, but the damage is done. We hit some turbulence, not terrible, but enough to jostle the plane. Jane freaks again, and some people start getting panicky. I feel awful. Maybe I made things worse. The flight attendant gives me a look that could curdle milk, but then steers Jane away to talk to her privately. By the time we land, things are calmer, but the tension is thick. Jane gives me a withering look as she disembarks, and a few people mutter things underneath their breath. So, am I in the wrong? Did I just escalate a bad situation, or was I right to shut down a meltdown that was putting other passengers on edge? I'm honestly not sure.
Was I the asshole for telling my fiance's female friend he might be your best friend but you're not his? So this is actually my ex-partner now, but my ex-fiance actually had one girl friend in the group of guy friends. We'll call her Sarah. Me and her got on okay, but every now and then she would make some really weird comments or sit too close to him or very touchy-feely, but not with anyone else. And sometimes she would always try and compete with me of how well she knows him and how long she's known him. So she's the only girl in about 11 guy friends. I did speak to him about the vibe I got from her a few times, but I didn't want to look crazy, so I didn't go too over the top. So one weekend we were actually all together just having food and drinks, and a week before my fiance, obviously then boyfriend, proposed to me, so it was nice to see everybody again. Everyone in the group was congratulating us and buying us drinks, everyone but one. Yes, Sarah. So after everybody had been congratulating us, she then came over to us, but only really spoke to him. She looked at him and said, "I am so disappointed I wasn't told first." She was really disappointed in him. She was really sad that he never told her beforehand the plan and got a picture sent the day after. Like, we didn't tell our family till a couple of days after anyway. We just wanted to enjoy it. So I think she was drunk at this point, but she started crying and saying, "I can't believe you did this without telling me, but I'll let you off if I can be your groom's lady, because when I get married," which she was single, she didn't even have a wedding coming up, she said she wanted my husband to be her man of honour.
She said their friendship needed some serious TLC to recover from this, and this was in front of everyone, by the way, like the whole group. I could not take her whining anymore, so I literally said, he might be your best friend, but you're not his. This is between me and him, and you weren't even a consideration. Well, she didn't like that. There was a few of them that said I did nothing wrong, and a few that thought I went a bit too far. Some of them were saying that's literally just how she is, but I wasn't comfortable her being like that with my fiance. Sometimes I just randomly think of that, and I wanted to share it with you.
Titled, Am I the Astronaut for Refusing to Smile at Someone Who Told Me I Should Smile More? This interaction took place a couple of months ago, around late July or early August 2023, and it took place in one of those stores where everything is super cheap. Think Dollar Tree, Dollar Store, etc. I, 24 female, had gone with my brother, 21 male, and mother, early 50s female, to grab some cheap snacks. On that day, I was wearing a baseball cap with the name and logo of my grad school on it. After going through the store and grabbing what we wanted, we got in line to check out. The cashier was a man, maybe in his 40s or 50s. Let's call him Bill. When we got to the front of the line, the three of us checked out separately, and I went last. My mom and brother stood a couple of feet away to wait for me while Bill was ringing me up. After some small talk, Bill looked up and noticed my hat. Grad school's name, huh? I nodded, and he asked, "You or that guy?" and nodded over toward my brother. I told him that I was the one in grad school, and he goes back to ringing up my items. After a few seconds, he looks back up and stares at me. The conversation then went as follows. "You know, you're not going to get very far in life if you can't smile at people." I'm sorry? I hadn't done anything that would have been rude or off-putting, at least not that I'm aware of. Ladies don't get paid the big bucks if they can't be nice. Women have to be nice to be successful. Bill, what are you doing, man? Me, annoyed and deadpan. Not in my experience. Oh, really? You sure about that? Yep, pretty sure. Sorry, you're gonna have to smile more often if you want to succeed in life, sweetie. And don't call me sweetie. Hey now, I'm just trying to help you. I'm good, thanks. All I said is that you should smile more often. Come on, smile for me. I'm good, thanks. I'll smile when I feel like it. When we got outside, I told my mother and brother what Bill had said. They both laughed at me and said I should have just gone with it. Ever since then, they have continued to bring up the situation with me and with friends and family, saying things like, "Don't tell her to smile, she'll snap at you." Or, "What about this time, OP? Do you feel like smiling now?" I get more and more annoyed every time they bring it up, and every time I tell them to stop, they tell me to lighten up. I've told some of my friends and they agree with me, but my family thinks I'm an asshole for not just going along with what Bill said. I don't think I was an asshole for refusing to smile, but I'm wondering if I should have just gone with it. Am I the astronaut? Okay, we have an update. Let's talk about it for a second here. Yeah, no, Bill is definitely the asshole here, and giving off a whole lot of the ick. Whole lot of the ick. Also, the dynamic here is Bill in his 40s or 50s, who is a cashier at Dollar Tree or whatever, which there's nothing wrong with. However, he is trying to give life success tips to OP, who is in grad school and says he's trying to help her. Again, nothing wrong with that at all, but I don't think that you knowing ahead of time that someone is in grad school can start preaching to them about like life success, and him being a 40 to 50-year-old male doing this to a woman. Also, if I were a manager or an owner at that store, he probably would have been fired on the spot. You cannot say shit like that to customers. You cannot. This was completely out of line in a business situation. He as an employee should not have ever said anything like that because it is a misconduct kind of thing. You cannot treat people that way. There's nothing wrong with what he's doing and what he's doing with his life. That's awesome for him. But he can't be using that role to preach to other people about what they need to be doing differently, especially if that person is a woman and he's saying to her she needs to smile more to be successful in life. He cannot be doing that shit. Absolutely not. Just automatically assuming that she wasn't capable of going to grad school and then saying she had to smile and she had to be nice, or women just don't get very far in life. You know they have those little like those plastic like hand slapper things. It has like two hands, but like they clap together and they're on the handles. I would have given anything if they had one of those in the impulse purchase section, and she just grabbed it and she let him scan it and then just whack, slapped him with it. That would have been great. That would have been fantastic. Okay, here's the update. Update for a post I made here a couple of days ago. I know everyone says this on their update post, but wow, I did not expect to get so many responses to my original post. Thank you to everyone who took the time to hear me out and share your opinions and experiences. I know the "you should smile more" thing for women isn't new, but reading all of your comments about your experiences with similar remarks really hammered it home for me. This wasn't okay, and I don't have to put up with those comments from my family. We didn't talk about the family, and that's another angle here. We'll talk about them after the update here. The day after I made the original post, I decided to call my mom and talk to her about the situation. A lot of you said that what she and my brother were doing was essentially bullying, and I hadn't thought about it that way, but you're absolutely right. When I told her about how much her comments annoyed and hurt me, she was surprised at first. She told me that she had no idea that the comments bothered me that much and that she hadn't thought about how misogynistic they were. She told me that she's received comments like "you should smile more" from creepy men for years, and that she just treated it as part of life. Well, yeah, I guess she just accepted that it was going to be part of life for her daughter and just never wanted more for her. You know what I mean? The fact that she has just dealt with it for years makes me kind of sad. And while it doesn't excuse her comments, it does help me kind of understand why she didn't see a problem with them. She apologized to me and told me that she would stop, and I'm willing to believe her this time. Also, I'm going home for Thanksgiving next week, and I'm going to see most of the other people who have been making these comments to me. Your comments have given me the courage to stand up for myself, and I plan to put a stop to these comments. If they continue to give me a hard time for it, I'll just send them the link to the original post so they can see that hundreds of people on here are nicer to me than they are. To the people who suggested that I contact the manager/supervisor/corporate for the store, I wanted to let you know that I did just that. I hadn't thought about it before, and I did that earlier today. As it turns out, Bill was actually let go from his position about a month ago. Apparently, I wasn't the only person he made these kind of comments to. Even though I played no part in that decision, it felt like an appropriate conclusion to that situation, and I figured you deserve to know. Shocking. Thank you so much for all your kind words and your comments and messages. I haven't had time to respond to all of your comments, but I promise I've read every single one, and they definitely made me smile for good reason. You've renewed my faith in humanity, and I feel like I just gained a few hundred new friends. I hope you all have an amazing day. Good. Okay, great. Now let's talk about family for a second. Yeah, bye, Bill. So what, like every woman that came through the line, he's like, "you need to smile more." Good gravy. Okay, so Bill's taken care of. We've established that that's not appropriate. We've established that that's not appropriate in a work situation, and he was canned for doing similar things. So, cool. Resolved. Sort of. Stopped. Now let's talk about the family. She confronted her mother, and her mother, sadly, basically has just, accepted that misogyny is just a way of life. And that's the way women are treated, and there's not a goddamn thing you can do about it, and that she should have just went with it. That's where I have a problem. The fact that mom was used to it and herself has just dealt with it, whatever. But I feel like you should always want more for your kids, shouldn't you? And when it comes to bullshit injustices like this, I feel like you should always stand up for your kids. And whenever she had heard about this, and although OP's an adult in grad school, right? She's an adult. I feel like as a parent, if we had walked out and one of our kids, older in college, had told me that this had happened, I would have marched my ass right back inside and been like, "Hey, that was inappropriate, and I need to speak to your manager." I would go mail Karen on him. I absolutely would. Because it is inappropriate, and nobody should talk to women like that. Especially whenever they are supposed to be customer service representatives representing a company. Not okay. Standing up for your kids rather than telling them that they should have just given into it feels like that's what should have happened. And OP understands where her mom was coming from now and gave her a pass, and that's okay. I do feel like, I hope mom feels bad for giving her shit for this and realizes the larger impact of what she did in that moment. I hope she realizes now. I hope the rest of the family takes it a similar way and they're like, "Oh shit, you know what? You're right. We're terrible." I hope that's how this goes. And I would hope that faced with a similar situation that we will handle this differently. You can't bullshit like that. You just can't do it. You can't. It's not okay. Everybody who this whole joke spread like wildfire throughout the family, everybody who has been a part of this thing needs to make an apology.
A lot of people have been talking about this influencer who basically uploaded a TikTok, and she basically was like, I think the heating in her place had basically broken down, and she basically was like, "Okay, cool, I'm off to the Subway, I can't deal with this cold weather and stuff." And obviously people, we're very aware that they're the rich, they're the working class, and then there's people who are suffering. And that's just the way the society's set up. But yeah, it was just very, very interesting to see how the reactions were to that, which obviously I think is standard. Like, you would expect that if you're somebody that's uploading that video, you're gonna expect comments to be like, oh, like, you're a bit tone deaf. No, you're gonna be tone deaf. Like,
the issue is that she's made it seem like, oh my gosh, the heating is done here, so I've just gone online and I've booked a night in the subway. No, they asked her to come and they paid her.
Yeah.
And like, that's the thing. It's like, you're making it seem like, you know, people are actually suffering. They're choosing between like gas and electricity and like food on the table. I saw an article recently where it's like mothers are having to like reuse dirty nappies because they don't have enough money to like buy fresh. And you're here like, instead of calling the, I'm sure to fix the heating, it's probably cheaper than
that's
you're going to spend in the subway.
Especially with the way the subway prices.
I'm wearing 80 denier tights and coat. That is okay.
I'm at the asshole for not giving my daughter her education fund money. I'm 54 and I have 2 children, 23 and 21. When my kids were young, my parents set up an education funds for both of them, which was very generous of them. My wife and I always expected our kids to attend college then graduate school, as we have done. My daughter has always been more into the liberal arts, and my son is more of a STEM guy, and we worried about her ability to find a job. She was accepted to some top schools and chose to attend a rather expensive one, but she had a scholarship that covered almost all of her tuition. Everything else plus living expenses was her own responsibility. She found an apartment that was really small, but in a not so nice area. After graduating, she was very lucky and found a job, but it doesn't pay extremely well, but she enjoys it, and totally scrapped the idea of grad school. There's no interest in grad school. Disappointed, we helped him with his education because he didn't get many scholarships, and his living expenses. My daughter asked how we could afford this, told her about the fund. That's why she didn't have one, and we said that she did, we just didn't use it. She was very hurt and asked if she could use the money now, that there would be a fee to withdraw if there's non-educational uses, and that it should belong to her grandparents anyways. She was quiet. Doesn't seem right because her brother used it for education and she doesn't want to use it for that. Also, for refusing to take my girlfriend to nice places because she eats like a kid. My girlfriend is an incredibly picky eater. She eats like she's a 10-year-old. Basically, just a lot of kid type food. This is not like me. I grew up eating lots of different food from lots of different places, so I'm a lot more adventurous. Whenever me and my girlfriend try to go somewhere nice, she usually just gets a burger, chicken tenders, and fries. We could be going to an authentic restaurant and she'll get french fries and white rice. To me, it's kind of embarrassing to go to a restaurant where there's a dress code and for her to order chicken tenders and fries. Especially bothers me since I typically pay. I end up spending $15 for chicken tenders and fries that I could get from the freezer section at Walmart for $5. Recently, took her to a new place that opened up. Girlfriend really wanted to go. It was nice but pricey. She said she was probably just gonna get chicken tenders as usual. I asked her what the point of going was. Could do the same thing in our house. Asked me why I got an attitude about this, and I told her I thought it was wasting time and money, especially to get kid food. Took this as me calling her a kid. I said I wasn't, but it's kind of childish the way that she eats. Now she thinks I'm better than her. I'm at the asshole for calling my brother's girlfriend a gold digger after she googled the cost of almost all of our Christmas presents. My brother James has a girlfriend, Lindsay, who's been dating for 7 months. He brought her over for Christmas at my house, and they were going to sleep over. I met Lindsay a little bit before this at drinks, and she seemed really nice. When they arrived, Lindsay walked in and complimented my decorations and asked how much they cost. And I just said more than I liked, kind of jokingly, and moved on. Throughout the evening, she asked several questions centered around money, and she kept asking how much my husband paid for our house, and my stepdad how much he made in his previous job. She even googled our art pieces to see how much. It was very uncomfortable, to say the least. And when we asked my brother, he just said it was a normal thing that she did. On Christmas, we all gathered around and opened our presents, and thankfully she didn't say anything then. However, at lunch, we were making plans for January, and she said loudly she didn't know how we could afford to do anything in January, as she added up the total of our gifts, and then very proudly said the amount. Everyone was silent, and I looked at Lindsay and said, "You are the world's most diligent gold digger." She apologized, and then tried to explain. We just moved on. My brother texted me later saying I really upset her.
Storytime about how I got fired because I told my boss that I loved him. Disclaimer, this is not my storytime and sending me on Instagram. Around 2 months ago, I started a new job. It was a CrossFit gym, and all I had to do was check people in before class started. One of the female owners of the gym ended up hiring me, but I didn't realize that she had a husband. Let me tell you, when this man came to the gym, I nearly fell off my seat. Not only is he the owner of the gym, but he's also a model. Like a legit published model. Then I found out that he was married to the woman that hired me. Being the bad bitch that I am, I knew that that was not going to stop me. I have a not so little confession. I have dated about 3 married men in my past. I know it sounds like a lot, but married men are the best. They give you money, they take you out, and they keep it a secret. So there's just like no hassle when you date a married guy. So I came up with a plan. It was pretty much just to flirt with him, and let me tell you, he gave it right back to me. Girl, I am just as shocked as you are. I thought it was gonna be harder to get him to warm up, but nope. Slowly I realized that he started scheduling me on the days that he was there by himself. He was just giving me the vibe, like, you know the vibe. So I started waking up extra early to do my hair and my makeup and look absolutely fabulous when I got to work. Not only that, but I also started bringing him in food. I knew he loved protein smoothies, so I was taking him a protein smoothie almost almost every single day. And I would just happen to bring extra lunch with me and I would offer it to him and he loved it. This was the perfect excuse for us to sit down together and have lunch every single day. And then we got into him complaining about his dear wife. Now let me be honest, I didn't know where things were gonna go with him, but I definitely wasn't expecting him to start complaining about his wife so soon. This is characteristic of a man that wants to cheat. A little backstory on the wife, she is a ball buster. She also kind of has a short temper, which kind of scares me. By the end of my second week there, I knew I had him in my pocket. But then he had to go away for a shoot, which meant that I wasn't gonna see him for 2 weeks. Part 2 is up. Story time about how I got fired for telling my boss that I loved him. Part 2. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I repeat, this is not my story time. That's when he went away for 2 weeks on a business trip and I was so sad. And that's when I realized I was in love with him. Like truly, madly, and deeply. And I only knew that because I wasn't flirting with anybody else. I was only thinking about him and waiting for him to come back. So during those 2 weeks, I took advantage and I started going to the gym every single day. I mean, I worked there, so I started working out like crazy. He happened to mention that he loves girls with abs. So I basically went on a 500 calorie deficit and I was pretty skinny by the time he got back. I would not recommend this to anybody because it's absolutely treacherous. I love food and I was always in a bad mood until he came back. The next time he saw me at the gym, I looked phenomenal. He walked up to me and said, "Oh my God, I missed you so much and you look fucking amazing." I melted into a puddle. The following day, he and I both opened the gym together and of course I brought him his favorite smoothie and he asked me if we could catch up. That's when he asked me if I had been dating anybody while he'd been gone. The fact that this man was already jealous after not seeing me for 2 weeks let me know that he was vibing me just as much as I was vibing him. So I did the logical thing and I said yes. He looked at me dead in the face and said, "Why are you gonna date somebody when you have me?" I was so shook, I actually didn't know what to say and he laughed. Then he said, "Oh, you know, I'm just joking. I'm just messing with you." And I said, "No, you're not. You actually meant that, didn't you?" That's when we just both stared at each other without saying a single word. I actually thought he was gonna kiss me, but he didn't. Then he confessed that he was so attracted to me that he didn't know if I should stay working there. I told him that we could just simply stay away from each other so that I wouldn't have to quit. He said that that's not gonna work for him because he actually wanted to see me and talk to me all the time. After that, I could tell that he was mustering up the courage to kiss me or to do something, but he was scared. Go to part 3. Story time about I confessed to my boss that I loved him and he fired me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I sent him on Instagram. After he confessed his feelings for me, I could tell that he was just trying to be close to me like all the time. He would find any excuse to touch my arm or my shoulder or my neck or my hair. And I was super flattered. By the way, I'm already in love with him at this point. All I was waiting for was for him to actually kiss me or to make the first move. Then I noticed some weird stuff happening between him and his wife. Do you remember that they both own the gym that I work at? Well, she started coming to the gym in the mornings when he was supposed to be there. So every time I would bring an extra protein smoothie and an extra lunch for him, I would have to hide it from her. That's when one day he asked me if we could meet up at an undisclosed location. It was pretty much just an empty parking lot and I went into his car and then we talked. He confessed to me that he was having an affair with somebody else from the gym and that this person was starting to go a little bit crazy because she saw him and I flirting. He told me that this woman was crazy and that she might even tell his wife about us. So basically he wanted me to not flirt with him anymore and that maybe we could see each other outside of work. But that even that would be too dangerous just in case she was following him. I asked him to tell me who it was and he gave me a hint. He said, "She's the really loud one." Immediately, I knew who he was talking about. It was one of the current gym members who comes to every single class with her husband. I could not make this stuff up. Then he basically told me straight out I needed to not speak to him at all at the gym. And that if this woman ever came up to me and asked me anything, I needed to just play dumb. To be honest, I actually got scared at this point because he told me that she was dangerous and crazy. So we both actually started acting like we didn't know each other. But the thing was, he wasn't trying to see me outside of work. He always kept saying that he was too busy or that his wife couldn't find out. So I wasn't talking to him at work at all. And again, this just solidified the fact that I was totally in love with this man. And then I found myself extremely jealous at the thought of him having an affair with this other woman. Not just that, but one day I walk into the office and he's full on making out with his wife on their desk. I felt totally betrayed and lied to. This whole time he's talking about how much he hated his wife, but then he's making out with her. And the woman that he was having an affair with was coming to the gym all the time and always grabbing on him and pulling him. I was jealous and envious all the time. It actually got to the point where I couldn't do my job because I was always aware of where he was and who he was talking to. Finally, we both show up to open the gym one day and we have some privacy. That's when I told him that I was really jealous and that all I wanted to do was be with him. And then the words just came out of my mouth. I said, "I love you." He looked horrified. He looked confused and angry. Then all he said was, "I have to fire you." Then he said that he couldn't have me around because I was too much of a risk. I literally begged him not to fire me, but he said no. I even tried to take it back. The next day he gave me a $3,000 check and told me never to come back. I drive by the gym every single day just to check up on him, and I'm still totally obsessed. My friends actually think I'm going crazy, but I'm just in love. Should I just forget about him or do I have hope?
I just realized my wife doesn't love me. Today I came to the realization that my wife doesn't love me. She said she does, but her actions over the years show that she doesn't. She loves the life that I have given her, but not necessarily me. My wife is a lovely person, whom I adore and treat like a queen. She had been working up until about 3 years ago when she was diagnosed with the disease. She would at times help with household chores when we were first married, but doesn't help with any daily housekeeping. She doesn't clean, vacuum, wash clothes, do yard work. She pretty much just does the dishes and that's it. She doesn't make much money now that she is on disability. She contributes little monetarily. The amount she contributes basically covers her cell phone bill and cable TV bill. I pay everything else each month. She does treatments every night but goes to bed around 2 a.m. and wakes up anywhere between noon and 1. There are many times where she wouldn't do anything for my birthday or Father's Day. I am a giver and shower her with nice gifts for special occasions and gifts just because I love her. I mean, I'm talking Louis Vuitton purses, bags, diamonds, and nice shoes. Sex is non-existent and I've always had to initiate it. The thing that really has been in the back of my mind is something that happened last year. Last August, I had a heart attack. I was feeling bad when I went to bed and woke up at 4 a.m. with really bad chest pain. I went downstairs to find the blood pressure cap to see what was going on. It was really high. I started sweating, had a hard time breathing, and sick to my stomach. I sat down for a few minutes, I looked up signs of a heart attack, and I had them all. I drank some water and felt a tiny bit better. I decided to drive to the hospital. I know it was stupid, but it's a fairly straight shot and it was early in the morning. I got to the hospital and they fast-tracked me through and started running tests. My wife woke up at 11 and noticed I wasn't home and tracked me. She texted me and I told her I was in the ER and they thought I had a heart attack and I had all of the markers. She came to pick up the car and dropped off a couple of things. She then left and went to dinner with her friend. The next day, I'm still in the hospital and I was hurt she went to dinner when I'm in the ER. I told her not to come up and well, she didn't. She only came up to pick me up to go home. She's been in the hospital about 6 or 7 times. I would visit her every day when she was in the hospital. I would bring her flowers and treats. I would wait in the ER every time to keep her company. I only missed 1 day and that was because she was supposed to be released and I was waiting till she was sprung. This has been sitting on me for the last year. It's not getting better. We had a fight that I instigated today. I told her how hurt I was and she said my feelings always get her. I asked her if her mother, sister, or grandfather was in the ER with a heart attack, would she go back home to be with them? And she said yes. After that, I knew she wasn't in love with me, just loves what I give her. She doesn't understand that she isn't giving any back in return. She is like a roommate at this point. A roommate that doesn't pay rent or help take care of the house or do much of anything to make my life better.
Am I the asshole for telling mother-in-law that she was dead to me after she showed up in labor and delivery without my mother? For the past 3 months, it has been a very well-known plan that when I, 30 female, went into labor, my husband was going to drive me to the hospital and my mother-in-law was going to pick up my mother, my kids, and my grandmother, all from one house.
We're all together.
Yeah. Both my mother-in-law and my mom were supposed to be in the delivery room. My grandma was to watch my 2 kids in the waiting room. Everyone was in agreement with the plan. Now, my husband and I have 2 sons already, and for both births, my mother was present. She helped me through so much of the mental anguish and panic, especially after my last, whom literally almost killed me. I was bleeding on the table, and my mom was the only one to be able to keep me calm. I needed her to be with me for this baby too, mentally. So we worked this plan out months in advance and everyone was on the same page. However, I go into labor, we make the phone calls to mother-in-law and my mom, telling my mom to be ready and my mother-in-law to go get my mother. An hour and 15 minutes later, mother-in-law shows up at the hospital without my mom, my kids, or my grandmother. She said, well, it's late, so we just need to let everyone sleep. It was 9:30 p.m. And then sat her ass down on the chair in the delivery room and jumped on her phone. I told her in a pissed tone to go get my mom. That was the plan. I needed my mom, etc. And she just wouldn't. At one point, saying that she didn't feel like driving that much. My mom lives 20 minutes from her house, which is an hour away. So I told her to get the F out of the room and that she was dead to me. The amount of resentment and disgust that I felt towards her in this moment is honestly not something I feel I will overcome anytime soon. She was pissed, saying that my mom got to experience 2 births already and how she didn't do anything wrong and she was just being respectful of people's sleep. And when she wasn't leaving, she was actually escorted out. My mom was able to make it to the hospital literally just as I was giving birth. My kids and my grandmother weren't able to make it, which bothers me a great deal. We promised our kids that they would be the first to meet their sister outside of us and Grammy. I cannot forgive my mother-in-law for all of this. I honestly feel like I hate her with every fiber of my being. but I'm being told I'm taking this too far and that it wasn't that big of a deal. Am I the asshole?
Am I the bad guy for throwing out my wife's friends at 4 a.m.? We're both in our 40s and she was hanging out with her friends last night. Her friend is moving out of the country, so they're all hanging out at our place first, drinking mimosas, listening to music, and then after they went out to the bars. I'm injured and taking antibiotics and I can't really drink or move around easily. We have a dog and it's a male, and they're kind of weird around other male dogs. There's about a 50-50 chance that they'll like them or not. At 4 a.m. my wife comes home with one of her friends and 2 people they met at a bar. Turns out they brought their male dog. Her dog jumped down, eager to greet my wife, sees the other dog and freaks out. I have to lift him in order to avoid a fight. The dog goes over to eat his food as well, and then he freaks out even more. I asked my wife why the hell she thought it'd be okay to bring other people home and dogs at 4 a.m. They go outside, my wife brings wine. They drink in the backyard. Next morning she tells me her friends were worried about it because of my reaction.
Am I the asshole for ruining Thanksgiving? So I met my boyfriend 3 years ago. Before me, he was with his high school sweetheart, Janet. His mom was still heartbroken about it, and I was very understanding and thought that she needed time to get to know me. For the first year of my relationship, his mom would call me Janet. I corrected her a couple of times, but she seemed to like hurting me, so I ignored it. My boyfriend has 2 sisters, and a couple of weeks before Thanksgiving, we were invited to barbecue at the older sister's house. I was in the kitchen with my boyfriend's mum, the sisters, and one of their husbands. The older sister then talked about how my boyfriend praised my cooking, and the mum was listening. She then said out loud, "Sure, why don't we let Janet make the turkey this year?" The sisters giggled and looked at each other, and I said, "That's a great idea." On Thanksgiving, we went to his mum's house with the usual wine and dessert. She was shocked, everybody was shocked, and I said, "What? I thought Janet was bringing the turkey." There was yelling, crying, and then we got kicked out. My boyfriend is so angry with me that he hasn't talked to me since, and I think it's over, to be honest. Am I the asshole?
My girlfriend left me on my birthday to go be with her guy best friend. I, female 22, and my girlfriend, 22. We both came out at the same time, and we were actually best friends before we came out. The reason why we both became best friends was because we both knew we were gay, but we didn't really tell anybody, but we knew each other was gay, if you know what I mean. We've been together for 6 months, and everything has been actually pretty good, with the exception of her guy best friend moving back to the city. When I met this guy, I knew right away that he has feelings for my girlfriend. Especially when he gets drunk, he gets super handsy with her. Obviously, I told my girlfriend that I didn't like him around her at all, but she put her foot down and told me that I had no say in it because he was her best friend. I basically didn't bring it up again, but they would hang out all the time, and they were always together by themselves. They never invited me to go along with them. My birthday was coming up, and her and I had already booked a little cabin in the woods. We were very excited about this, but then she slowly started to ask me if I wouldn't mind if her best friend joined us, and I told her I didn't want him to be there. It was my birthday, and I was paying for the cabin. You see, my girlfriend's really broke, so I basically pay for everything. Then she threw a tantrum and said that I was being controlling and that I didn't want to let her have fun. Then she picks up the phone and calls her best friend to complain about me in front of me. Part 2 is up. My girlfriend abandoned me on my birthday so she could go hang out with her guy best friend. Part 2. After I told her I did not want her best friend coming to my birthday getaway, she threw a tantrum, called him, and complained about me in front of me to him. I was actually so hurt that I grabbed the phone and hung up. She looked at me and told me that I had no right to take the phone from her and blah, blah, blah. That's when I broke down into tears and asked her point blank, "Do you have a crush on this guy?" Immediately, she said no. But then she told me she had a confession. She proceeded to tell me that they both lost each other's V cards to each other, and that's why they were so close. And that because they're trying to work on their relationship, I should let him come to my birthday trip, the one I'm paying for. I asked her if she had feelings for him once again, and she said no. And then I asked her if he has feelings for her. This girl just stayed quiet. Then she had the gall to say, "What if he does? Is that really that bad?" I actually had to explain to her why that would be a bad situation. Finally, my birthday comes around, and she is nowhere to be seen. I was waiting for her in my car to drive to the cabin with her. An hour later, after she's supposed to be there, she sends me a text saying that she's gonna stay with him, and that hopefully this distance will make our relationship stronger. Instead, I took my whole family to the cabin, and now I'm ignoring her. Now she's been calling me nonstop. I took her not showing up as a breakup, but she wants me back. What should I do?
I, 30 male, and my girlfriend, 29 female, have been dating for 2 years now. I recently took my girlfriend on a getaway weekend, nothing fancy, just a 4-day weekend to the Hilton Hotel, going on fun outings she mentioned she wanted to do, like ice skating, dancing, painting, and other fun activities. I'm in love with this beautiful woman. Before we started dating, we worked at the same job together, and we've been friends for a long time. I soon grew a crush on her because she was so cool to talk to and be around. I was also friends with her ex-boyfriend. They'd been broken up for a year or two by the time I started liking her. And I wanted to ask the ex-boyfriend, since we were friends, would it be okay if I asked her on a date? He said obviously, and had no problems with me and her dating one another.
That's a weird answer.
A day later, I asked her to a drive-in theater movie, and she said yes. And after the first movie date, we made the drive-in theater our weekend thing, and we would also go out to eat or go to comic conventions and anywhere we spend time together. One day, I wanted to make it official, so I asked her if she'd like to be my girlfriend. She said she wanted to just remain friends. Although I was hurt, I absolutely was fine with her decision, and we still continued our weekend movie nights and outings. But every once in a while, she would show signs that she liked me. She wouldn't let me talk to any other girl, and if I mentioned that a girl was cute, she would say under her breath, she better stay away from my man. So, catching these hints, I stopped talking to other girls and didn't bother to ask any girl out, thinking she wanted to go out with me. I asked her to be my girlfriend again, but again she said she just wanted to be friends. A few weeks later, she would quit the job that we worked at together and find a new job, but we would still hang out on the weekends. One day, I was out running errands and I saw her on a date with someone. I didn't approach them, of course, but I have a rule not to go out to movies or any dates, like activities with a girl who has a boyfriend or is dating in respect for the boyfriend. So I stopped inviting her on our weekend hangouts without telling her why. She didn't mind because her attention was on the other guy. I wanted to give her and the guy I thought she was dating their space. 3 months passed, us not texting or hanging out, and out of the blue, she texted me asking if we could hang out to catch up and chat. I said yes, of course, and we did after that. We started hanging out, going to the movies together. She would come over to my place almost every day, and we would watch movies there until 12 or 1 a.m. And once again, she would drop hints like she liked me, but I wasn't going to ask her out a third time, just in case I was wrong. If she liked me, she would have to ask me out. And after 4 months, she finally did. I said yes almost immediately, which brings us to...
Chill. Stand up, bro. Chill, bro. Stand up.
Which brings us to her telling me after our weekend getaway that the entire time we were hanging out, before we got together, she was dating and sleeping with other guys. And around the time I asked her ex-boyfriend if I could date her, they were still sleeping together while we were going on...
Wait.
Yeah.
He said, go ahead.
I beg your pardon?
While we were going to the drive-in theaters and spending the weekend together.
Ow.
Even during the months of her coming over to my place and hanging out until the midnight after the 3-month gap of us not talking, she was still sleeping with other guys. She told me she didn't want any other girls talking to me. She liked me the entire time we were hanging out. She just wasn't ready for a relationship. But once she went to her new job, she jumped into a 4-month relationship. Even the night before she asked me to be her boyfriend, she went on a date and slept with a guy, and she was hoping for a second date with him, but he ghosted her. So she told me that she liked that I was nice to her, but wanted to have sex without any attachment, which is why she slept with the other guy while hanging out with me. In the beginning of the relationship, she told me she danced with other guys at nightclubs while out with friends, kissed a guy, and would get into random dudes' cars when she needed a ride. So am I the asshole for wanting to break up with her after finding out she used me and making me her last